Hello and welcome to the One Life to Live Aftershow here on JLJ Media. I'm James Lott Jr. And I am so excited because I have somebody who worked on One Life to Live as a cameraman and then as a Emmy-winning director. That's right, kids. So I just want to first tell you guys you can follow us wherever you can find podcasts. So iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google, Apple, and we're all over the place under One Life to Live Aftershow. I made it so simple you can't miss it. My guest is two-time Emmy-winning cameraman and director, Bruce Cooperman. Hi, Bruce.
How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for doing. Thanks for this. So you heard my. Wait. So how did you find my podcast? I posted everywhere, but how did they come into your orbit?
Well, I listen to Spotify for some podcasts, and yesterday afternoon I'm sitting around, and I said, well, I want to hear if there were any One Life to Live podcasts out there, and I came upon yours, and I listened to maybe around 10 episodes, and then I had something to do, but I emailed you, and here we are.
I got you fast. I'm a fast emailer. I get back to you fast. And when I saw director, I was like, yes, I'll get back to you now. But I'm not gonna let you go.
Yeah.
Yes, but no, it's funny because I made it that simple on purpose. I was like, just put one for the rap shot. I didn't make no fancy names and like land view talk or anything. I was like, no, we're gonna make it just so that you can find it, just for that reason, right? You just type it in. But I'm very honored you reached me. So, okay, number one, we talked about this as we were coming on anyway. I might kind of start from the end and go back and then go backwards. So when did you find out? Do you remember where you were when you found out that the show was actually being canceled by ABC? One Life to Live.
Um, I was actually home that day, and my phone blew up
I'm sure.
from all the people on the show. Did you hear? Did you hear? And the show is canceled, and like a ton of bricks. I just nobody. There were really no inklings, or nobody was talking about it, and we were going on doing our everyday thing, and boom. It was
Yeah.
it was heartbreaking.
Now, how big was your directing staff at that point?
We had about 5 or 6 regular directors,
Okay.
and we would all alternate days because everybody says, ask me why only one show a week or so, and there was so much planning that went into directing a show. Lots of phone calls, lots of emails, because between a director and a producer and a director and the other directors, we had to keep on top of what everybody was doing the previous episode. Like if someone was directing the day before in a restaurant, in the Palace restaurant scene, and the good old
I
Palace.
know. I was like, so you said, I was like, oh, yes, like, oh, yes.
But and if I was picking up the next episode, I had to know what side the actors were sitting on, and if Asa was always on his left side,
Oh,
or
really?
else,
Oh, okay.
yeah, oh yeah. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around, but
No, I love it. You're doing fine. You're doing fine. Phil, I met Phil Carey years ago. I like Phil. I love him. Okay, go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead. Go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
what a treasure.
Yes,
You
I agree. I totally agree.
um,
But anyway,
uh,
so Azo is always on his left. I love that. We love fans.
yeah, oh yeah, and the entrance to Ace's mansion was on the camera right side.
Oh,
So, like blocking for him, we had to get him over to the left side as soon as possible, or else he'd give us, the we called it the Philly stare. And a lot of times I'm like, okay, Phil, just give me another second, and you'll
we'll
be on
get you
your.
there. We'll get you there. Exactly. Wow. No,
Uh,
you're answering something I was going to ask you. Actually, this is perfect because I've had people on from the actor side. I've had a couple of writers. We always want to know about this because we know soaps are not filmed just one day. You guys film multiple episodes a week. So,
yes.
so we were wondering when you have multiple directors, how it gets passed on. So you just basically answered part of that question. So for example, you do Monday's episode. The episode's gonna air for Monday.
Right.
Then it's up to you to talk to the person who's doing Tuesday. So there's a schedule out, so you know who's doing when, that kind of thing.
Exactly right. If episodes were like a day in Landview, then it didn't really matter.
Oh, right.
Then the director could put the actors wherever and have them do whatever. But if it was, on for a Monday and it was picking up directly on Tuesday, you had to coordinate with the next day's director. Hey, I left Asa on, sitting at this table in the center of the set, and he's on of course his left side, and Renee, God rest her soul,
I know that was a hard one
she's
too.
on the right side, and they were having steaks, or so then that day's director would go coordinate with the prop department. Hey, I need the steaks, or leftovers, things like that.
Yeah, because if you're the director, it means you're working with props, crew, hair and makeup, wardrobe, and the actors
Lighting,
and writers.
lighting,
Lighting.
props. So yeah, everything.
Were
Yes,
you always an organized person?
yes.
Okay. So this job is good for you then. You're an
Yes.
always organized person. Okay.
Exactly right. Exactly.
I think so. Who was the hardest, not person, but like group to manage? Was it the actors? Yeah. Or was it lighting? Or was it makeup? Like who was the hardest back then to manage?
Um, hardest, I would have to say, were the actors,
Yeah.
but not all of them, and not every single time I directed. You know, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot,
No, of course not.
because I still deal with some of these
But my
people.
thing,
But
no, my point kind of just is because you deal with so many different departments. I'm just
yes,
curious, like which one is the heaviest you kind of have to deal with. I mean, the actors they're acting, you're blocking them, or acting, you got the scene out. But it seems like to me that the rest of the crews kind of work it out themselves. I guess they kind of work it out.
pretty much like we would have a meeting. I would the director finishes their script, marking in all the camera shots and all lighting notes, and like you say, wardrobe notes and things. And then the director goes into the studio either the day before or 2 days before to hand their script off. And then the director's assistant will make copies of the script and distribute it out to the producers and whoever needs it. But then the director goes to meet with the head of the prop department and say, hey, I need a duffel bag, or for this actor, or I need food if they're going to be in a restaurant, and drinks, and things like that, or mail for the actors to do business, you know and then if there's anything from costumes or special hair and makeup, then you go into their departments and discuss, for your day.
Okay, okay. No, this is fast. So trust me, the fans are gonna love it. This is fascinating. I always wonder because, like I said, we know the actors what they have to go through, learning their lines. We talked about that ad nauseum. We're like, but you're directing them, so you have to direct them. So, and the pace is still, if it's fast for them, it's fast for you too, but on a larger scale, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Um, and I have like 10,000 questions I want to ask. I'm trying to think which one to ask next because this is fascinating. Um, on a soap opera because it is so fast. Um, did you watch soaps beforehand before you came on it? Were you just a cameraman director for general stuff, and then fell into soaps, or did you watch soaps beforehand? Did you know what their life was like, kind of?
I actually watched One Life to Live
Oh,
from, I'd say, the mid 70s on.
okay,
And I was fortunate enough, when I started as a cameraman in 1981, that was my first assignment. So I knew the actors and the characters, of course not personally, but I knew of them from watching the show for years before. When I was in college and I would get home, I'd flip on ABC, and there was One Life to Live. So I started to get into that.
Yeah. And so let's get to that part of it a little bit. So do you go to school for like film and stuff? Tell me what your background is a little
I
bit.
grew up in Brooklyn, New York.
Yes, Brooklyn. My family. Well, my family. Okay, so now they know how you change names now. I love my fellow Brooklyn people. So we're from Fort Hamilton Parkway.
Oh, okay.
Oh, East Forest, Fort Hamilton is where I was from, but they call it Kensington now. So when I was growing up, it was Park Slope, almost Prospect Park. Prospect Park's around the corner, kind of. Well, actual Prospect Park was like literally around the corner, but it's called Park Slope. Now they're calling our section because we're by Caton Avenue, so it's called Kensington, which I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I didn't grow up in Kensington, but that's what it is. But Brooklyn, yes, sorry.
Yay, yay. So
Yeah.
when I was around 10 years old, my older brother, who was also interested in television, he used to take me to Rockefeller Center and watch, like during Christmas break. We were off of school, and he would take me to watch the game shows back when they did game shows like Concentration and Jeopardy was originally done. And being 10 years old, I was fascinated by the cameras and the lights. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So when I went to Brooklyn College, they had at the time like the best TV program on the whole East Coast. They had their own studio with professional equipment. And I took all these TV courses, production courses, TV history courses. And in my third year of college, in my TV history course, a woman walks in and she says, "Hi, I'm from ABC." And my ears perked up. And she said, "We're looking for interns for the summer."
Oh my God.
She said, "It's no pay, but it's great experience." And my hand was up in half a second.
Yeah.
And I got the internship, and I worked on a local show that's in the same building where they do the Kelly and whoever her co.
Where she is now. It's Kelly and Mark now, I think.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't watch. But anyway, sorry.
I love it.
But
Yes.
I would I answered phones. I did the usual intern stuff.
Yeah.
Distributed papers. But every morning I got in early and I went downstairs to the studio and I watched them do whatever the Good Morning America, whatever the show was back then, and I made friends with the camera people, and they started to show me, how the camera works and everything. And one day they let me actually do a live segment. It was only people sitting, sitting and talking, so it wasn't anything difficult. But anyway, and that's how I got my start. And I applied for a camera position, and I got it. So I had to personally decide: do I finish my last year of college and not work at ABC, or because as a cameraman you don't really need a college degree, and then I thought, if I give up this opportunity when I may never have a chance to get this opportunity again. So I spoke with my parents, and they said, you could always go back to school.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it, and it worked out. And
Clearly,
40 something years later, I'm still in the business. So
I think clearly it worked out.
yeah.
But no, I get it. Your foot was in the door already, and people, folks who are a little younger may not understand this. Back in the day, it's not saying it's easier, but in some ways it is these days. Back then, there was less ways. You had to get discovered, so to speak. You had to know somebody to get somewhere. It was a little harder back then.
Exactly right.
What is one of the things you take away as working as an intern that you would share with other people if they were interning? What would you tell people?
I would say if you're given the opportunity to be an intern, to grab it, because from personal experience, it worked out.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to be in to work till 9 o'clock, but I got in at 7 o'clock every morning, my own time, not again, interning, of course, is not getting
Hey,
paid,
I know what
but
you mean.
I certainly didn't, get paid for being in at 7 o'clock, but I thought, hey, this is what I want to do. And the more people I meet and the more questions I ask, it's better off. And that's exactly what happened. So that's that's my what advice that I would give to young people these days.
I agree
You know,
with that completely.
don't wait for everything to be handed to you. Like think, like they say, think outside the box and hey, how can I, learn more while I'm here? So
Bruce, I have stretched my 15 minutes last 15 years. So yes, I understand that. Trust me. No,
yeah,
man, just saying it's the truth. It's like you know, so you get the internship. And I've gotten certain jobs I got in. I wasn't getting paid either. But I was like, I used to be at a place called AfterBuzz TV. They were around for about 10 years. Maria Menounos, Karen DeGaro. And I did it for 10 years and it wasn't paid. But I learned I made so many contacts, so many networked so hard. I got lots of experience. Now I'm on my own. It all fits. It all works and it fits. So I agree with you. It's like even though you're in there, don't just sit back and think, well, now everything's gonna fall into place. It's like take initiative, right?
exactly. And even while I was doing that, I remember an old friend of mine said, "Hey, I'm doing a show on at the time it was Manhattan Cable,
Oh
which
wow.
was way before,
Yes.
Comcast or
Comcast, yeah.
Spectrum or,
Yes.
like in the infant ages of cable.
Yes.
And he says, you want to come in and get some hands-on experience, and work the cameras. And I had time in my schedule and I went into wherever in Manhattan, wherever the studio was, and any hands-on equipment hands-on experience that I can get. That later, when I did get the interview after the internship, I was able to say, hey, I ran a camera at Manhattan Cable and I did this here and they were like, wow, for such a young guy, you have some experience. So, like I
Yeah.
say, it worked out.
Yeah. No, that's just folks, that's just valuable information in anything, any field you're in or whatever. Just not always just accept certain things. Just kind of go in there and look, and then also keep your eyes open. And in this business, especially, there are a lot of opportunities out there. A lot of times, not always paid, sometimes low pay, whatever. You can pick and choose. I mean, not saying you should do all low pay, no pay jobs all the time, but there's weigh it out. See what the options are. It might be really good for you because in the end, like you said, you can use it later. It's part of your whole repertoire. So I think
Exactly.
it's good. I think it's really good. All right,
Exactly.
so you're at ABC, you're interning, whatever. So now, how did you get to? At that point, you were over at West 66th or whatever.
West 66th Street,
I've
yes.
been to that studio before back in the day. I miss it over there, Upper East Side. So you were in the building. So how'd you get to cameraman over at White to Live?
I like I say, I applied for the job after the summer, and they used to, back in the day, used to hire uh, engineering people, camera people, audio people, video people. It was called vacation relief. And they used to hire people, like just say 50 people, they would hire, and that you're basically covering for the staff employees while they take vacations. So their manpower would be filled. But I got assigned, like I say, right away on One Life to Live. And I remember the first day walking in the studio, I'm like, oh my God, you know, I know that set. Oh, there, and I
It's
got
a
so
trip. You're right.
excited
It's
when
a
I saw
trip.
the actors and,
It's a trip. Yes, it's a trip.
it didn't happen the first day or the first week, but I was assigned to observe some of the camera people. and I did, and getting friendly with them. And a friend of mine to this day, his name is Howie Zeidman. He started on One Life to Live, I believe, in '78, and he took a liking to me. And like I say, we're still friends these days. I'm his son's godfather, and he really showed me the ropes. And when he felt, he let me do some rehearsal. And like I say, 31 years later.
So, okay, I'm going to ask you a technical question.
Oh,
So,
uh-oh.
yeah, I have a couple technical. I'm trying to ask you everything I've always wanted to ask because I direct audio drama, so I direct non-film, so I direct voice stuff. There's certain techniques and things you have to do, but I mean, but for you, what you do, I'm like, I want to know about this. Okay, first of all, did you see the cameras change and evolve while on your tender, or were they basically the same cameras the whole time? Because I know times change and things, equipment changes. Did that happen to you?
They were basically the same. They had just gotten new cameras, like
Okay,
right before I started, and they stayed basically the same. I'm trying to remember. I think it was the mid '90s. They started doing experiments with high def cameras.
okay, okay.
In fact, I they had three camera people hang out at lunchtime, and they brought in these high def cameras, and they had one of the actresses walk around the set, and they recorded everything, and get close-ups and medium shots and wide shots, and see the set. And then they, the powers to be, um looked at that, and they decided to go with the high def cameras. So then like right after that, I started directing, so I wasn't
Okay.
doing the cameras anymore. But I remember, all the last how many years they used the high def cameras.
Okay. Next question. For a typical scene, especially if it's a two-person, three-person, four-person scene, how many cameras are on that scene? Because we see later product where it's like their reaction, your reaction, this person, wide shot. I mean, I'm curious how many cameras. When I was at Plus TV, we had single cameras for each of us, a camera for wide shot, a camera behind us. We had three or four. So I was curious for you, what was the typical?
For a regular two-person scene, it was generally three cameras.
Okay.
Like you say, the camera on the left shoots the person on the right, for their close-ups. And the same thing with the camera on the right shoots the person on the left, and then the center camera has the wider, we called it a flat shot, for
Yeah.
any kind of business, if they hold hands, or when they pass a paper from one to the other. So
Yeah.
this way, the center camera can catch all that. But so a lot of times we use four cameras because if it's like the Lord Library,
Oh,
and
yes.
Vicky, Erica
I know
Slade,
Erica Slazak. Erica
yeah,
Slazak. Hmm.
um, probably the one person in all of history that nobody has a bad word to say
Oh,
about.
you never hear anything. Never. You never hear anything. Seriously, you never hear anything bad about her ever. Never. Never.
Right. But like just say Vicky's coming into the foyer of the Lord Library, we'd have a fourth camera out there and then if she would go into the living room, that camera would follow her, and then the other cameras would pick her up. If Clint is sitting there reading the newspaper, and then they do their scene on the three cameras generally. But there are a lot of times, like with bigger scenes, um, fight scenes, or soaps with their explosions. We could use up to like eight cameras. All little handheld cameras, or like high
Yeah.
cameras. It's called the jib. It's like a
Oh
on a
yeah. Yes.
things like that. So So it
Yeah.
all depends really upon the scene.
Now I have a real technical question.
Uh-oh.
You mentioned Erica Slezak. Erica Slezak, also Bree Williamson,
Mm-hmm.
each played twins or split personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you ever direct any of those episodes? There were so many, there were a lot, but I'm just curious if you ever well, you're probably a cameraman for some, but also I was like the bigger question of it is how hard are they? Is it extra filming? How do you do that when they're playing when they're actually supposed to be interacting with themselves or with the other Vicky, Nikki, and Tess and Bess and all that? I mean, how do you do that?
Okay, so just say it's a Vicky Nikki scene.
You love it.
They hire an actress, and they would put her in Nikki's red wig,
Oh yeah.
and we would shoot it like a regular scene.
Oh, okay.
But the camera that's shooting uh, Nikki's stand-in, we know that person would never be seen. They put her in the red wig and the outfit that Nikki will be wearing because in case the camera flips, picks up a piece of that actress. So we had a center camera that was called a lock-off camera when they were standing and facing each other. And the technical director would magically draw a line in between the two of them. And the actors could not cross over that line. Okay. So that whole shot was being recorded, but in the magic of editing,
Yeah.
they could just take one half of that and use that. And then later, when Erica Slezak would go and change outfits and hair to become Nikki, she would be standing facing Vicky. And then that would be recorded. And in editing, it was all put together. And there you have your split screen. And,
Yeah.
it would look like they're talking to each other.
I know it was always fascinating to me, and again to the multiple Emmy winner Erica Slezak. I mean, her job was the hardest, obviously, having to know the lives for both.
Yes, exactly. And an interesting thing about that center camera could not move.
Yeah.
Okay, because if it moves a fraction of an inch, the set behind will be off.
Oh, right. When you try to put, oh, okay, yes, okay,
Right. So what they had to do, they just had to use that camera, and if we had to break for lunch, they would rope it off, and they would have one of the security guards stand there all of lunchtime and make sure nobody walked into that camera. So there could be nobody in the studio at lunchtime, but that security guard was there to make sure nobody touched it so it wouldn't move.
I get it. I was like, that makes sense. Yeah, it'll look weird.
Yes.
It won't match
Right.
up.
The whole
Yeah.
right, like the bookcase in the Lord Library would be overlapping,
Yes.
if the camera moved. So, or else we would have, if I think it did happen one time,
Oh, yeah,
somebody did it by accident, and we had to do the whole thing over again.
Oh, yes. Well, I mean,
and that adds a lot of time, and the producers were certainly not happy, and so.
I mean, well, that's another good. Thanks for answering those questions. I've always wanted to know that. And folks, you got some inside information. Did you ever feel pressure? Because the actors talk about it, of course, because they have to learn their lines to get to the next scene. As director, you're a cameraman, you're just a cameraman, you're catching a shot. But as director, did you ever feel a lot of pressure for the time constraints you had?
Absolutely. That's
Yes.
that's what it was all about. How it went, and I don't know if you've discussed this with anybody on your other episodes of the podcast, but the directors were given a schedule,
Okay.
and they had a scheduled out time. One of the producers, their job was to say, hey, this is like a real easy day. It's mostly two people scenes. So, it's going to be a pretty easy day. So we think we'll be done around 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So they would put an out time to the time that they thought we would be finished as 6 o'clock,
Okay.
and that would go into if the carpenters had to come in and knock sets down for the next day's shooting, the carpenters call time would they would be have to be ready at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So if things happen, everybody makes
Right.
mistakes.
Right.
Things happen, it's not a live show, it was taped. But if we finish, just say, and my skin is crawling, if we finished at 7:30, that was not a good thing.
Yeah.
The producers were not happy because it cost a lot of money. It cost money for the overtime, for the people shipping. The sets had to be brought in for the next day, and so there was a lot of pressure, a
Yeah.
lot of pressure on the directors. If you went 15 minutes, even a half hour, all right, that's not the worst thing, but you always try to finish on time, and if not early, if you finished early, you were a hero.
Yeah. What was one of your favorite sets to work on?
The Lord Library was great because also I know Vicky was most likely in there and doing any scenes with Vicky and Clint, whether it was Clint Ritchie, God rest his soul, or now Jerry Verdorn.
God
Also,
rest his soul too. Right. God rest his soul too. They're all gone.
what a shock!
I know, that was a shock.
Because as a director, if you're starting your day with 6 Clint Vicky scenes,
Yeah.
you're just going to roll right through them.
Right. Exactly. They're professionals. You're gonna sit there and just take it in.
Yeah. Again, I don't want to repeat myself. I'm sure other people have said Erica Slezak knew her lines and your lines and your lines.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And somebody actually just asked me the other day, um, um, how it was working with Erica and how the other actors behaved when she was on set.
Yes.
And everybody knew their
I'm
words
sure they did.
because you didn't want to screw up. I mean, again, mistakes
Of
happen.
course. Of course.
Acting it's very hard to
Yes.
remember all those words, but you try to be on your A game working with Erica.
I'm sure. No, I'm sure. You have so many talented people on that show, including led by her. Um, when you were first nominated for an Emmy, do you remember, as part of the directing team of Wives Live, do you remember what that felt like?
I think I had to change my underwear
I
because
mean, it's the highest honor in our industry. It's an Emmy. That's the thing. It's just an Emmy.
I've always said before I retire, I wanted one.
Okay. He's got
And
two. Got two.
yeah, what can I tell you?
Yes.
Anyway,
You wanted one. You wanted one.
um, when we were nominated before, and if you're nominated, you get to go to the awards. And
Yes.
back then, they were either in Los Angeles or
Sure.
Las Vegas.
Oh, Vegas. That's right. Vegas. That's right. Yes. Yes.
And that kind of wasn't too terrible.
No. Yeah. Right. I have to go to Vegas or LA. What a shame.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
what a shame.
yeah. And we had to go out a few days before the
Of,
ceremony.
of course. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What a shame.
It was really difficult.
Yeah.
But the One Life to Live directors won in 2008 and 2009. We won 2 years in a row. And that first time, I remember Debbie Morgan from All My Children. she was up there because I still show people on YouTube. It's still on YouTube. And when she said "One Life to Live," like I tell you, I almost, you know what, in my pants. We all jumped up and screamed and hugged each other. And we went up on the stage, and our, um, our director, Jill Mitwell, accepted. She did the acceptance speech, but I stood right behind her, just a little off to her side. And I remember my mother saying when she called me, my phone is ringing. I'm up on stage on TV. I was so excited, and my phone's ringing, and of course I didn't answer, but I got a chance to call my parents after. And my one of the first things, you were on TV the whole time. How did you know where to stand? I said, Mom, I was a cameraman for 15 years. I know if she's speaking, the camera's going to be on her. So that's why I stood right
It's
behind
very
her.
smart, very smart. Yes, exactly. I like that. I like that.
It was just so amazing. And then you do this press after, and they take you for pictures, and it was thrilling. It was
Where are
thrilling.
your Emmys? Where are they?
They're in my house here in California because I recently moved to California, from New Jersey, but they're on the mantle.
Very good. I got very good.
Yep.
Yes, we love it.
So it's certainly a nice conversation piece when we have people over.
I don't know. Emmys are pointy. I've held Emmys. They're pointy. They're
Yes.
like
Yes.
weapons. They're a little
Yes.
heavy too.
And I was going to say, and they're heavy. When I let people, I only charge them $20, to hold to hold them. And I say just be careful because they're heavier than you think.
Pointy,
And then
yeah.
you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it.
They are heavy. I had to hold with two hands like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's
Exactly.
like it's a lot. It's a lot. That's very cool. I know. I one day hope to win an Emmy myself. One day. I mean, I was almost nominated once, but I hope to get there one day. So I won some other awards, but it's fun. It's fun. We don't do this for awards, obviously. We do it because we like doing this movie. But it's fun because you're behind the scenes. You're not one of the ones in front of the camera. Literally, you're not in front of the camera. So it's like kind of nice to get some recognition and be in front of the camera for a change.
Exactly. The actors, like you say, they're used to it,
Yeah.
but for a guy from Brooklyn,
We're gonna
to
talk.
be, all these flash bulbs going off that you can't even see, and you're on a stage with all these reporters, and they're asking you all these questions, and we're all taking turns answering, and it was just thrilling to say the least.
It is. Um, so okay. Did you watch the reboot that came out afterwards for that one season?
Um,
Sorry, One Life to Live, folks. I'm asking.
I think I watched it the first day.
And what'd you think?
I thought it was a little wacky,
Well, I think, yeah, a little wacky. Yeah, it was.
and with the cursing was
That
kind
was
of
weird,
odd.
right?
Yeah, because the worst somebody would say on regular One Life to Live was "son of a bitch."
Right.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You say it. It's fine. Oh, yeah, like that. Yeah.
But they're dropping the f bombs and all, and I didn't really. I maybe I watched a couple of episodes, but
Yeah.
that was about it.
What is one thing that you learned from Frank Valentini?
Uh,
Because I'm sure you're not surprised he's successful. When he's successful,
no, he's amazing, and I knew Frank from when he first started.
right?
He was an assistant to Paul Rauch. God bless
A
him.
legend. Gosh, and a legend.
Yeah. I have so many good Paul Rauch stories also.
We'll get there in a second. We're gonna get there in a second. Yes.
But Frank started, as his assistant, and then Frank became a stage manager and an associate director, and then he directed, and he became a producer, and then a senior producer, and then Frank and I actually share the same birthday. I'm
Oh,
I'm 2 years older than him,
how
but
funny.
but he was given uh, the executive producer of One Life to Live on our birthday.
Oh, how funny. Okay,
And
yes.
I remember saying to him, "Sure, Frank, I get a birthday card for my birthday, and for your birthday card, you get a TV show."
Yeah, right, exactly, right,
You
exactly.
know, but
Something's wrong here, yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, well, I don't know. It wasn't wrong because he deserved it, and and that's why he's still going today.
And
He's
folks, Bruce is going over to General Hospital. Actually, that's why I mentioned it. That's why I mentioned Frank Valentini. So he's going, so you're reunited with him.
Yes. When my lady friend and I of 9 years, when we were considering making the move to Los Angeles, we were thinking about it in this past May, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna call Frank, and I called him, and he was so excited to hear from me, and he said, please come see me, and I have work for you,
Okay.
and I made up, to see him on a Wednesday. And when I got to his office, we hugged for like 20 minutes because we hadn't seen each other because he pretty much moved out when One Life went off the air. He
Yes.
moved to California rather quickly to take over for General Hospital.
Yeah.
So we hadn't seen each other for years, and it was a great reunion. And we sat and we caught up on family, and he knows my kids since they were born. And he was at my older daughter's first birthday party, and every time I would bring my two girls in to visit, can we go see Uncle Frank? Can we go
Oh,
see Uncle Frank?
very nice.
so
Very nice.
Frank, I'm just trying to think. Frank was always do it fast and efficient, but make sure you get it right. Just don't accept anything, even if you're looking, have one hand on your wrist looking at your watch.
Yeah.
Don't accept junk because the audience is smarter than we think.
Yes.
And they'll pick up and they'll say, "Oh, that those scenes were terrible between Jim and Mary." You know what I mean? And they don't know. Oh, it was at the end of the day, and people are saying, "Come on, let's go. We have to finish," and you just buy anything from the actors. So that's a long story to your
I like it.
question, and
I like it.
I apologize. I talk a
No,
lot.
no, it's good. No, it's good. No, it's good. Trust me, it's good. We love it. The next one I want to ask you about is my buddy Ron Colorati, who's over at Days,
Yes,
because you worked with him over there. He was a writer over there.
yes.
Oh, anything we mentioned about him?
Not really. I mean, the directors really didn't have that much interaction with the writers.
That's interesting. That's interesting to hear. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. If we had questions, we would go to the producers,
Okay.
and
It's good to know. Didn't know that.
and the producers would have the answers. And if they weren't sure of something, they would go to the writers.
Okay.
So very rarely did the directors and writers interact with each other.
That's good to know. Did not know. See, I'm learning. We were learning. So I did not know that.
You know?
Okay. But he's doing his thing over there too. Somebody was saying folks used to work with. They're all doing. They're working still in the business.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Nice
One
success.
of one of our producers, Suzanne Flynn, is writing for General Hospital.
Yes.
So you
Yes,
know,
I love that.
yeah. So it's great, and I still know people at General Hospital that I'm gonna be working with all the time now. So
My buddy
it's
Fido Xavier. I love Fido.
yes,
My
yes,
friends know we're friends with him. I've known Fido for years.
yep.
I met Allison at the Emmys last year, so I got to meet her. She's really nice. But I know Fido. We go back.
Lovely woman,
Yeah, she's
Allison.
very nice to you. She's very
Yeah,
nice also.
yeah.
Sorry, it's Allison Ream Smith, folks.
Right.
That, so I know them. But I do want to hear at least one. I can talk to you forever, but I do want to hear at least one Paul Rauch story because he is a legend and he's infamous as he is famous. So
Yes.
I do. I mean, I heard he rules Iron Fists. and a sharp wit. I've heard all kinds of things. So I do want to hear a story from you. I have to. We want to hear a story.
All right, I'll try to keep it to one story.
Yeah,
but,
just do one story. No, I want more, but I can only do one. I can't do a 5-hour podcast.
Well, I just want to say that Paul Rauch was responsible for me getting a staff camera job, because this vacation relief that I was mentioning before, I was vacation relief for 7 years. And that meant that every year I was coming back to work from April to the end of October. And I was only assigned on One Life to Live.
Okay.
And Paul took out to dinner the entire head of engineering for ABC just to have me hired.
Really? Wow.
And the day that I got the phone call, congratulations, we're hiring you staff and, all that. I went up to Paul's office and he was sitting there as big as life behind his huge desk. And he said, come in, come give me a hug. And Paul was not from the huggers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if he liked you, he took care of you. And that's one thing about Paul. And Paul generally loved his crew people, and I said, Paul, I don't know what to say. You've changed my life. And he says, just do me one favor. Don't ever change who you are. And I said, Paul, I'm speechless, and it takes a lot for me not to talk, but he was responsible for me getting my full-time camera job. And if just one more quick Paul Rauch story.
Please.
This was pretty funny. The cameraman who I mentioned before, Howie Zeidman, and another cameraman, his name was Frank Schiraldi. We used to live in the same development in New Jersey, and we would take the bus coming into the city and coming home from the city. So it was one day we finish, and Frank Schiraldi, not Valentini, Frank Schiraldi and I are waiting inside the lobby by the front door of the studio. We're waiting for Howie, who had to get his bag or whatever. And down comes Paul Rauch from the stairs, and he's wearing a red sweater thrown over his shoulder. And he comes up to us, and Frank says, Paul, nice sweater. And Paul took the sweater off of his shoulder and gave it to Frank. And I said, Paul, nice Mercedes.
Oh.
And he, gave me a little taps on the cheek, and he's like, good try, kid. Good try.
You sound like me.
I was like, hey,
something I would,
So that was a very funny, he got a laugh out of it too.
I said I would do if I could do longer podcasts if people would listen. This was great, Bruce. Thanks for coming on the show. It was an honor. It was an honor. Let's stay in touch. Totally stay in touch.
And if you want to do another chapter, you have my email address. I love to talk about the show. It's a big part of my life. I'm getting all verklempt to talk about it. But it was family and great memories. So
I will definitely have you back on. I might have you on for a couple of we get more technical things. I have some ideas, so I'll be back on. But so we're gonna stay in touch. We're both in California. We gotta have lunch sometime in LA. So I'll come over to the Valley.
I'd love to
have lunch these days and do that too. So Bruce Cooperman, folks. Now, are you on social media at all? Can anybody follow you or no? What's your deal?
I'm on Facebook. I think I'm on Instagram. I don't really go on Instagram, but yeah, I think Facebook would be the best place.
Bruce Cooperman, you over there on Facebook. That's fun. Okay, and nobody weird, just nice people. I'm James Lott Jr. Wanted to Live is a show that I still miss, and I watch it. I go online, I watch episodes and snippets every once in a while. It's a lot of fun. Such great work, plus very diverse casting on that show. They had great, I mean, over the years, amazing storylines of all kinds over the years, and some wacky ones. They loved everything. It was a soap opera. They loved everything. And you really can't have a soap without a cameraman or a director. You just can't have it. Get out of there. So, and I'm James Lott Jr. You can follow me everywhere James Lott Jr.'s are, and we will talk to you next time.